Good day, everybody. You're welcome to today's episode of the Tech Talk Show with me, Kazeem. And I've got a very good friend, a very good old friend on the show today with me. So he's going to be walking us through today's topic. So the topic today is going to be Azure Lighthouse. You're very much welcome on the show, Akinkunmi.
Thank you.
Yes, so let's start with you introducing yourself. So it will be nice for people to know who you are, what you do. So let's start things from there.
All right. My name is Akinkunmi Akindolire, right? I'm an IT specialist. That's what I call myself, right? So, but I focus more on Microsoft technologies, right? So I've started working with Microsoft technologies for a while now, say like 10 years plus. And I work on the infrastructure side and the dev side a little bit, right? So that's basically where I am right now.
So today we're talking Azure Lighthouse. Can you please help us understand what Azure Lighthouse is? What problem does Azure Lighthouse solve for us?
All right. So I'm excited to come on this talk show to talk about Lighthouse, right? Because I have seen Microsoft technology grow, over time, right? So Lighthouse basically, right, is a new Microsoft solution, right, that has been released to GA right now, and it's especially targeted to MSP customers or providers, right? So MSP being a managed service provider, right, to manage a cross multi-tenant platform, right? So I have worked with a company also back at home where we used to manage multiple customers, right? But we need to go to the customer side or log in remotely into the customer's environment. So Lighthouse is the Microsoft solution, right, that has been provided by Microsoft for us to be able to do all that automation from just one tenant, which is going to be the managed service provider tenant. Also, we can do things like config management. We can scale the customer's environment, and we can help them with governance around their resources and tenant infrastructure. So Lighthouse is that one centralized managed environment where I can, from my own seat, manage multiple customers. So that's
Okay.
so that's what Lighthouse is.
Okay, I want to be sure that the people, our viewers listening, really understand this, and there's no misconception here.
Okay.
So can you tell us, is this similar to how web hosting provider service work? Where if I decide to become a reseller, right? I want to be a hosting company, so I can now have customers on my own platform and then be able to manage them, even though I'm buying the service from somewhere else. So is that how it works?
No. So Lighthouse is totally different from that, right? So Lighthouse is, like I said, is a cloud native tool for Microsoft, right? It's free on Azure, right? And you can use it to manage multiple customers' tenant environment, right? So nobody's hosting anything on your own environment, right? So I'll use this scenario here, right? So the two scenarios I'm going to use is the MSP and the customer, right? So the MSP is the
what is an MSP, by the way?
All right. So the MSP is the managed service provider, right?
Okay.
Right. So it's a partner company with Microsoft, or maybe a vendor company with Microsoft that has said, we can manage, customers, right?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Just like myself. So if I say I want to go into becoming a provider of Microsoft services, so I can call myself an MSP, right?
Sure. You can call yourself. So we have a lot of companies like that back at home, right? Companies that are Microsoft partners, right? Microsoft vendors. So these are the MSP guys, right? And we have, on the other hand, we have the customers, right? So those MSP manage customers on their day-to-day activities. They manage the customer's infrastructure, right? They do things like monitoring, things like backup for them. They won't help them set up VM, virtual machines, right? So, but how do they do it in the traditional days, right? They have to go into that customer's site to go and carry out that task, or they're remotely connecting to that customer's environment, right? So they will have been given delegation and permission and all that stuff from the customer. But what Lighthouse allows us to do is the customers here have their infrastructure running on Azure, right? And they have their tenant, right?
Yeah.
The MSP is just going to ask for delegated right from the customer to their tenant to be able to manage their resources.
Okay. Okay.
So it's totally different from customers hosting their infrastructure with the MSP. No, it's nothing like that. It's just a centralized view that I have, that customer has given me the right permission to be able to gain visibility into their environment and be able to manage them.
Oh, okay. Let me ask you this. What was used in the past before Lighthouse? I mean, if we wanted to do the central management of multiple customers, what do we use? What solution was available for use in the past before Lighthouse?
Okay, so that's a very, very good question, right? And I'm glad that you asked that question. So back in the traditional ways, right, there was really no centralized platform where you can manage multiple customers' environment, right? So the only way that was done, right, because I happen to work in that in that field of field where I have to manage multiple customers as well. So what was happening back in the days was customers was going to have an edge server, right, where they're going to publish the resources that they want you to manage in their environment. So most times you manage them through the normal RDP into their edge server, and then you can now navigate into their environment, their domain controllers or whatever servers they got in their environment. But look at that right now. So look at it in a bigger picture. So if I was managing 10 customers, that means I have to, first of all, they have to set up that infrastructure on the back end, right? Then I have to log on into those customers' environment one by one. I mean, that's not agile, right? It's not agile, and it's just the old way of doing things, right? Nowadays, right, we have a more better way of doing things, right? Especially in IT and especially in managing customers' infrastructure, right? That is what Lighthouse has really, really solved, right? And it's a big solution that anybody that is an MSP right now or wants to become an MSP right now can use as a cloud on Azure to manage their multiple customers.
Oh, okay. And just a quick one. I'm curious now, is this service free for MSPs or is this something that we have to pay for?
I know you were going to go there, right? Okay, so Lighthouse is actually free. So you've been hearing me talking about cloud native, right? So the thing is, Lighthouse is free right now. Is a tooling on Azure for any customers that uses Azure right now, right? You can just go to your Azure portal, search for Azure Lighthouse, right? It has the Lighthouse icon, right? So you're going to get it for free, right? It's just a free tooling, platform where you can use to manage multiple customers. So it's free, and that's the good thing about Microsoft. It's just free.
Okay, wow. Okay, that's a good one. That's good to hear. Let's also talk about the management now. The management aspect of this tool. We've said manage multiple tenants, right? So are we restricted to managing Azure resources here, or can we as well use it to manage resources on other cloud platforms? Is this something you want to throw a bit light on?
Yeah. So I can actually throw a bit on that actually, right? So I'll go back to what I have been, the phrase that I've been using, a cloud native tool, right? So cloud native as regards to Azure Arc. There's something called Azure Arc, right? It's also new, right? And it's in GA right now. But, cloud agnostic, right? So there's a difference between a cloud native tooling and a cloud agnostic tool, right? So the cloud agnostic tool is the one you use to manage both cloud native and resources in other clouds and on-premise, right? But the good thing about it is both of them complement each other right now, right? So yeah, so they complement each other very, very well, right? So you can bring resources from those other clouds that you mentioned, AWS, GCP, or your on-prem into Arc, which is called Azure Arc. Then from within Lighthouse, right, you're going to have a centralized visibility into those resources that are in those other clouds and on-premise. But it doesn't stop there, right? So you can now start to do things like governance, right, on these resources. Things like, performing tasks on those customers' environment, things like backup, things like monitoring, right? Doing it in a very more agile way. And, when I say agile way, you can, set all those monitoring and, leverage the Azure dashboards, right? To have it or to gain visibility into multiple customers' environment. That is very powerful.
Okay, very well said then. So you're saying for us to be able to manage other cloud platforms, we will need to use it in conjunction with Azure Arc.
Azure Arc, exactly. Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
You have to use it with Azure Arc. They complement each other.
Okay, so we've been talking about this for some time now. Is there a chance you could show us what this looks like, please?
Okay, I think I have a sample demo here that I can show you. Let me go ahead and share my screen so that you can see that. All right, so let's start by going to Azure Lighthouse, right? So if you haven't really gone here before, right, you have to type Azure Lighthouse in the search button, right? We all know the search button on Azure, right? But because I have always, I've searched Lighthouse like 1 million times. That's why I have the icon. Like I said, the icon is going to be like the Lighthouse icon, right? So if you click on Lighthouse, right, it takes you to this pane, right? So this pane is the pane that tells you about how you manage your customer, how you can open an Azure Marketplace, how you can, so this is a very good thing that I want to talk about too for Marketplace, right? So in setting up Lighthouse, right, you can decide to set it up, as a product also in the Marketplace, right? What do I mean by that, right? So you can, as a MSP, right, you might have, say, a service that, you want to dish out to the larger cloud, right? So there's something in, Azure called the ISV. I know a lot of people are familiar about that. That's the independent software vendors. So you can use Lighthouse also as a model, right, to publish that service offer that you want to sell to the customers. That service that you are offering the customer as an MSP can also be used from the Marketplace via Lighthouse to publish it to the customer. All right. Another good one is if you look at this section, this third section here, the customer you're managing as well, right, have that visibility in Lighthouse also to see, the permissions that they have given to you as a MSP, right? So they want to know who's doing stuff in the environment, right? So they can also go into Lighthouse and see all these things. But I'll start from manage the customer, right? So if we go to manage the customer, right, and I come down here, you can see that here, this is just a demo, but you can see that I have a customer that are already onboarded into Lighthouse called the Charlie company, right? So, and you can see that this, that this is a subscription, and the way I onboarded this customer into Lighthouse, right, I didn't use the Marketplace offer, right? So there's another way. So that brings up to the second way of onboarding customers into Lighthouse, which is through an ARM template, right? Then we can also see, I'll touch on that later on. Then we can also see the delegations based on the subscription, right? So if I click on this delegation, right now, this is a demo, so this subscription is expired, right? I can see that, yes, for this customer's environment, as an MSP, I have access to this customer subscriptions. And once I have access to the subscription, right, means that I can gain access into the resource group in the subscription and the resources in the subscription, right? But all that has to do with the permission that I have said I need from this customer. So that takes us to this role assignment, right? So if you look at this role assignment, right, if I click on it, you will see that, right, as an MSP, right, I have said that I need RBAC permission or role-based access control to be able to manage a subscription. So what you see here are groups that have been created in the Azure AD, right? Because we always use group for more organized management, right?
Okay, just quickly before you go ahead, setting the permissions now. How does the customer grant you the permission? Are you to send the permission request from within from within Lighthouse now, or how do you go about it?
All right, so that's also a nice question. So I'll go to my Visual Studio Code, right?
You have to do this in code?
Yeah, so I told you that two ways, right?
Okay.
So this can be done via the marketplace where I don't have to write a template, right? I do all that service offer, put it on the marketplace, and all the customer need to do is just search for my service from the marketplace on Azure, right? That's the most easiest way, right? So in that service offer, I will have included the permissions that are required to be able to manage that customer's subscription and the resources. And it's granular, right? The customer might have multiple subscriptions, right? They might say they don't want me to manage this subscription, they want me to manage this particular subscription, or they want me to manage just this resource group and the resources in there, right? So that's one way. The second way is also through HAM, right? So the HAM template actually defines, the creation of the groups, right? The role definition IDs, and the permission required, right? So this HAM template needs to be built. Once it's built, right, all I need to do is send it to the customer. If they have the technical know-how, all they need from their own end is just that the person that's meant to run this template also have an owner role to that subscription, and they're going to run it. Yeah, so once they run this template, automatically it gives those groups that I have defined here the necessary permissions to be able to manage the subscription or the resources in that subscription.
Okay. Very well said.
All right. So if we go back to Lighthouse, right? So if we go back to Lighthouse, the good thing is, so now we onboarded the customer, right? But this is where Lighthouse start getting juicy, right? So where is this customer's resources, right? Where are all these customers' resources? From your own centralized view, so I'm the managed service provider right now. So from just this one view, right? If I go to all resources, right, I'm going to see all the resources in my own subscription and on all the customer subscription. So imagine I have like maybe 20 customers onboarded right now, and they say in their environment, they're having a problem with the virtual machine, right? I don't need to log into the customer's tenant for me to be able to locate the virtual machine. All I need is just the, virtual machine name, and I can come do a search here and say I'm looking for, in this case, let's say we're looking for a web app. I'm looking for so guy. It brings it up immediately, right?
Okay, and if you're going to be having all of the resources bundled under one umbrella, how are you able to group things? I mean, you're looking for a VM.
So that's also very good, right? So like we mentioned earlier on, right? So the customer is giving me the access to their, subscription, right? So if you look at the filters here, right? Right now, my filter says the subscriptions for all, right? So if I click on this, I can decide to filter based on the customer.
Okay, good.
So if I'm filtering based on the customer, I only see resources that has to do with customer. Can you see it right now? The resources disappear. So it's flexibility, easy, breezy. You can manage, multiple customers' environment from just one view. So we can, you can go to things like security center, gain visibility into, multiple customers' environment, help them do governance. This is very, very useful, right? A lot of customers set up resources in their environment with no tagging. They don't, they're not following compliance. All this is going to give you visibility into this customer's environment where you can always, help them out with all these things, right? You can go to monitor, right? yeah, you can start to set, monitoring alerts, pinning metrics into the dashboard, and the likes of it.
This is really interesting. Uh, Thank you very much. So a quick one now for those MSPs now that are looking to leverage Azure Lighthouse. Is there any new skill that they have to acquire? Is there something new they need to learn for them to be able to put Azure Lighthouse to proper use?
All right. So basically, there's nothing to learn, right? So right, because if you're used to the cloud concept and you're used to performing tasks on the cloud, right?
Yes.
You will know that, right, the cloud, right, is built on the REST API, right? So Azure is built on ARM, right, which is Azure Resource Manager, right? And
Yeah.
with ARM, right, what you can always talk to it with the existing tools that we already know how to use, right? Things like PowerShell, things like Azure CLI, right? Even the developers, right? All their SDKs, right? Things like their SDKs that they use for their development, right? The Visual Studio Code, right? Their programming, languages that they already have uh, in existence, right? So there's really nothing to learn actually, right? It's just you interacting with the cloud, right? And being able to, probably if you want to be techie, right, run some commands and all that stuff, right? So
Okay.
you don't necessarily have to run the command, right? You can just stick with the GUI, right, and do what you
Okay.
want to do.
Okay, so their present Azure skill still holds true. So there's really
Per-
nothing new they have to
Perfectly,
learn.
perfectly.
Oh,
So
oh, okay.
yeah, and I like that question because when I was showing the demo about the Visual Studio Code, I know a lot of people are going to be wondering how this is a block of code. I don't want. There's really nothing there, sincerely speaking, right? It's just because I'm embracing DevOps practice now, right? And
Yeah.
for more automation, right? I need to, gain some knowledge as regards, you know, an area called infrastructure as a code, right? Which is just automation, right? We want to learn how to, declaratively do something or carry out a task in the cloud, right? I won't
Yeah.
want an engineer to go create 10 virtual machines in the cloud right now and go through the GUI, right?
Yes.
You have to be agile about it, right? So that's just what
Mhm.
leads us to learning, some
A
of these,
little bit of
yeah,
okay, okay.
a little bit of all this
Development now. Okay.
development, right?
Okay. So where can we learn more about Azure Lighthouse now?
All right, so for just like the other Microsoft solutions, right now, you can always go to docs.microsoft.com, right? Type in Azure Lighthouse, or if you have an Azure tenant, right, you can from within your tenant, right, on the search button that you saw me, go to, just type Azure Lighthouse, right? It's gonna, pop up Azure Lighthouse for you. It's gonna point you to, a lot of directions in terms of documentation on how to set it up, how to onboard customers, and how to start using it. So
Okay.
it's through their docs.microsoft, through their documentation, you're going to get a lot of there's a lot of tons of you know guidance out there.
Okay. Thank you so much. So here is what time would permit us today on the Tech Talk Show. Thank you so much once again for sharing your knowledge and your time with us on today's episode of the show. So please, if you're listening to us right now, kindly help us spread the word, to your friends, and do follow up on YouTube. Do follow us on YouTube so you can watch, the previous episode on YouTube. So it's the Tech Talk Wednesday with Kazeem across the social media platform. So thank you very much for your time once again. So any parting word from you now?
Well, thank you for letting me on the show and letting me showcase this solution to those that are interested. I know that there are a lot of partners and vendors, Microsoft partners and vendors back at home. I know that yes, this tool and is going to be very useful, to them, right? And I know that in the IT world right now, right, things are moving to the cloud, right? And we have a lot of hybrid environment, right? So any little thing that's going to make life easy, or any little thing in technology that's going to make life easier, right? People need to know about it.
Yes, thank you so much. So you've heard it from Kumi himself on today's show. So on that note, it's bye-bye from myself and Kumi. Thank you
All
so
right.
much, Kumi.
Thank you, Mr. Kazeem. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah,
Thank you. Bye.
yeah, bye.